Welcome to the Mango Effect podcast, where every week we explore a range of ideas and inspiration that all culminate in designing the lifestyle that we've always dreamed of. No topics are off limits. We get into the practical, the hypothetical, and the downright juicy stuff. I'm Mindy Rosser, your host and lifestyle cheerleader, and I'm here today to talk about my dreadlocks journey. Since it's one of those subjects that most people feel a bit shy to ask about unless they know me pretty well. So I'm coming out with my dreadlocks story. So what's the dreadlocks journey? What is this? If you are not familiar with dreadlocks, then you may not know that there is a thing that's called the dreadlocks journey, which means that everybody who decides to get dreadlocks, it's a journey. It is not something that happens overnight. For most hairstyles, you can get your hair cut, you can color it, you can do all sorts of things to it, but it happens overnight. It's pretty instantaneous. You can get extensions for any type of look that you want, but dreadlocks, the real ones, it's a journey, and there are no shortcuts. It takes forever, and you have to be really, really patient, and I'm going to get into a little bit more about that, but it is a journey. So just understand that anyone that you see, anyone that you've come across that has dreadlocks, no, they are not lazy people that just don't want to do their hair. Most likely, they have made a very conscious decision to lock their hair. And so I think just approaching it from that perspective, I used to think that when I would see somebody with dreadlocks, I go, oh my gosh, they must just not wash their hair. Do they need a brush? What's going on? Especially when they have nude locks, because you're not sure what's going on with their hair. And you're like, oh my gosh, their hair is looking crazy. Or I just thought they were hippies. So I would totally discount them. I would put them in the pot smoking hippie camp. And I have nothing against pot smoking. And I have nothing against being a hippie. I would consider myself probably a bit of a hippie myself. I'll probably talk about that at some point. But locks are special. And when I see them, when I come across them, when I see anyone who has them, there is an instant connection. It is definitely this unspoken community of people who are on this journey. And so when I come across somebody who has dreadlocks in real life, I don't come across many women though. It's mostly men. I live on the North Shore of Oahu, so there are a lot of surfer dudes, I guess in proportion to other places in the United States, that have dreadlocks. So I'll see them out in the water, and it's usually not that we say anything to each other. There's just an understanding and a kind of a knowing. You kind of give the nod, like, okay, you're all right. Yeah, you got locks. We know how this goes. So it's a special thing. It's a special community. There's a special bond that people with dreadlocks have with each other, even if it's not stated. So ever since I was a little kid, I was obsessed with hair in all its variety and variations. I was actually called Barbie as a kid, as a teenager, because every single time I would go to school, my hair was wildly different. So one day I would go, and this was when crimpers and curling irons and all the variations of the crimper were all in style. So I used to go every single day to school with amazing hair. I thought it was amazing hair. It probably looked like I stuck my fingers in a light socket on some days because of how long it took me to crimp all of that hair. It was a lot of hair. But regardless, I love hair. And as I was growing, there was always this attachment to my hair. It had to be perfect. It had to be like, I had to picture it on a movie star or something. I don't know. I had this really weird conception around how my hair had to look. A lot of that also stems from my childhood, which I'm not going to get into that here, but just I was raised in a very, very strict and definitely a very patriarchal culture. So as a woman, my whole purpose in life was to make a man happy and to look as good as possible for as long as possible so I could hold his attention. So for me, hair was a thing, and that was my way to get that man's attention. So I have this very contorted and strange relationship with my hair. When we moved to Hawaii, I'm in my 30s at this point, and I started okay, I think I want to do something different with my hair. I felt this sense of detaching from my hair in a way that I hadn't really felt before. I started caring less about how my hair looked to other people and more about how aligned my hair was with my inner soul. And I know that sounds like, Mindy, that's getting kind of It's kind of getting deep and woo-woo, isn't it? Yeah, it is. It is. So there was something about hair, and I was searching. So I was like searching. I'm like, okay, I really don't want to spend all this time on my hair anymore. I'm kind of tired of that. That was my 20s. I have kids now. I surf all the time, and spending 20 minutes detangling hair after surfing. Any of you women who have done that, you know what I mean. It is not easy, and it takes a lot of time. So I started looking at other hairstyles. I didn't want to go short. That was one thing for me. Like, I love short hair on women. I think it's beautiful and gorgeous. But for me, I'm like, it's just not where I'm at. So I started looking. I'm like, you know what? I came across a picture of a beautiful woman that had gorgeous dreadlocks. I'm like, oh, dreadlocks. I want dreadlocks. So in that moment, it was pretty instantaneous. I decided I wanted dreadlocks. And so I started looking at lots of pictures, researching the process, reading a bazillion journeys about locking hair and all of this good stuff. And then I finally decided to tell my partner, Jason, like, guess what? What, Mindy? He always braces himself, though, because he never knows what I'm going to come up with. Yeah, Mindy? What are you thinking now? I said, I want dreadlocks. He said, no, not dreadlocks. That's like hippie hair. That's like dirty, yucky, and you don't want dreadlocks. And so it went like that for almost 2 months. I'm like, I want dreadlocks. I said, I really, really want dreadlocks. I've been researching the process. They're not dirty. They're not grimy. It's self-expression. It would fit with our lifestyle. You know, surfing, dreadlocks, it all kind of works. And so eventually he said, okay, Mindy, let's do it. He's like, it's your hair. He's like, it's not my place to tell you what you can or cannot do with your hair. He's like, what do we need to do? So you know what we did? It was we actually learned how to lock hair. So if you're not sure about this, you can probably Google or look at YouTube and run some searches for how to lock hair. But we use the back combing method. And it's much easier if you have a partner and if you're trying to do this all by yourself, your arm is going to be so freaking tired because it is work to lock just even one little section of hair. So what we did, it took us, I think, 2 weeks or thereabouts to lock all of my hair. We did it section by section. We put in movies, so I'd sit in front of him and he would be behind me and just locking my hair and doing the back combing method. And we got through all of it, but it was very traumatic because when you are back combing, you're also losing a ton of hair. So like he would take away the comb. We broke, I don't know how many combs, probably like a half dozen combs trying to finish back combing. And there would be like these masses of hair. I'm like, oh my gosh, my hair, am I doing the right thing? And when you first back comb the dreadlocks, they look so weird. Like they're called baby dreads. And they look bizarre. Like I look like I was an alien with like hair coming out of my head in weird places. And they don't they don't pull in a natural way yet. They're really stiff. And so they stick out like little ropes everywhere. It's so funny. So we made it through and I'm like, okay, all right, here we go. So at first I was pretty excited because they were really long. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. That you are, when you first start, you are expecting that the dreadlocks are going to shrink. So basically what that means is they start really long when you first back comb them. And I had very long hair. Like my hair was to my waist when I actually started dreading my hair and locking it. And so I was like, I'll probably lose a little bit of length, but not too much. You know, I was expecting about a third of it to kind of, shrink up. No. It went from all the way down my back when I first started to literally, I looked like I had a bob and the way, how much it shrunk was incredible. And so Jason's like, Mindy, are you sure about this? Your hair is really, really, really short. Are the dreads ever going to come in? So there was this really funky period it was about a year, 9 months to a year in, where for 6-8 months, it was just funky looking hair. And people would look at me and go, do you need a brush? I'd get like funny comments on the social media channels. I'd try to hide my hair behind a hairband and such just because it didn't look like dreadlocks yet. This is all part of the process. This is part of the journey. And a lot of people try to skip it. And I've seen a lot of people try to like lock their hair. And then they will get extensions to make it look like instant dreadlocks. And that's just not what I wanted to do. I wanted it to be legitimate. I wanted it to be real. I wanted to go through this process of detaching from my hair and really feeling all the feels. And that's not easy, especially because there are no other women here that are in the middle of locking their hair. There's nobody that I can really talk to about this journey. It's just me. There's some men, like I mentioned, there's men out there surfing and stuff, but they don't understand the journey from the perspective of a woman. So it was a very lonely place to be, in a way. I felt questioned by a lot of people, my family, Jason. I mean, he wasn't trying to be questioning, but he's like, are you sure about this, Mindy? Yeah, I'm sure. I'm not cutting it off. We're keeping these locks. They'll grow out. They'll start, forming into little dreadlock looking things. So it's a journey. It's a process. And it was much more than just how my hair looked. It was also what was going on inside of me. And yeah, now my hair actually looks like, it actually does look like dreadlocks. If you look at the picture, the podcast, you can kind of see them. It was a little earlier in my journey than where I am now. But they are actually kind of longer, and they actually are forming into little dreadlock looking things, although they still got lots of lumps and loops and all kinds of weirdness going on. But that's what makes it fun. But it's about that journey. And getting from the point of deciding to lock my hair to now, I feel like I have changed as a human, and it is not just the dreadlocks. I'm not going to say that. It's not like, wow, the dreadlocks changed everything. I feel like dreadlocks for me were definitely a process of evolution, and it was kind of a mirror of what was going on internally for me, like what was happening to my hair, going through that transformational process, watching them mature, going through the really annoying hard times with my hair. And it's kind of funny. It's like a metaphor for life, right? We go through these periods. We make a decision. We're all excited. We do the thing. And then we're dealing with the consequences. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes they're not so good in the moment. But we know they're leading us to better things. And this reminded me very much of my hair. And it was so funny because just the timing of it was like in lockstep with what was going on in my life. So for me, dreadlocks are a journey. And you've heard me say that a bunch of times already today. And I think also there's something to locks that are important. It's being told what to do with my hair. And it sounds so silly, but growing up, I felt like I had this internal pressure that my hair had to look a certain way. Then when I grew up, it's like, okay, I have to look a certain way because I'm a personal brand. So I have to be professional. I have to wear this much makeup. I have to perfectly do my hair all the time. And dreadlocks changed all that. It was like, I can do whatever the heck I want with my hair. If I want it to be locked, I can. If I want it to be messy, that's okay. This is my hair, and I can express myself how I want to express myself. So I think to me, there's that little bit of a rebel. I'm definitely a rebel at heart, and I like to buck the system. I like to do what I like to do. I like to stand out. I don't mind if I look strange. So for me, it was super fun from that aspect. Now, the spiritual aspects of dreadlocks. This is something that some people talk about, some people not so much. There isn't that spiritual aspect for them. For me, it is very, very spiritual. I am not a religious person at this point in time. I have been a very religious person at lots of different points in my life. Will I ever become a very religious person again? Who knows? Maybe. But for me, dreadlocks were a way to tap into my spirituality in a way that I hadn't done before. And I feel like, to me, the spirituality and just how would I put it? It's kind of a little bit of woo-woo going into it. But there's that connection with my hair and allowing it to go through its journey, feeling it. So like I touch them all the time. Like there's something about touching dreadlocks. It's super fun. I love it. And I feel like that aspect, it felt very grounding for me. And also I think from the perspective of dreadlocks in the ocean, for me, my spirituality is in the ocean. So anytime I am paddling, whether my feet are touching the ocean, whether I'm sitting on the ocean, just letting like the water run over my feet or my whole body is in the ocean, everything related to the ocean, there is something spiritual about that for me. So combining that with dreadlocks, and dreadlocks love the ocean. So if you didn't know, when you are trying to get your dreadlocks to tighten, you do want salt water. So some people, if they don't live near the ocean, they will actually get solutions that are like saltwater solutions and spray them on their dreadlocks, leave it in for a little bit, and then wash it out just to get their dreadlocks to tighten. So when you surf, it's actually great for your hair because it helps them tighten and helps them knot up a little bit more. So to me, it's like this beautiful process. Every time I was in the ocean, I'm like, like there's this outer transformation happening. There's this inner transformation happening. There's this spirituality that I don't know exactly how to describe that is going on. There's some type of connection here. And so it's a really beautiful thing. And I think everybody who has dreadlocks and also believes in that kind of, spiritual woo-woo aspect to it, they'll have their own interpretation of what it is for them. But for me, it's dreadlocks in the ocean. It's like, I just love that connection. Now, there are some haters out there, especially wonderful ones on the social channels. Now that my hair is actually starting to look like locks, I get some hater comments periodically. People accusing me of cultural appropriation. And there are so many misconceptions around that. And if you actually want to look at the history of locks, it originated, who knows where it originated? Like nobody really knows. But all cultures over time have had some type of dreadlock or some type of braid or some type of way that they did their hair that would resemble what we now call dreadlocks. So when I get told that, it's like, no, it's really not about that. They just don't understand. So I think that's a tricky situation sometimes, especially in today's day and age where there's so much, I think, misunderstanding with different cultures and we're trying to make things better. So for me, has nothing to do with cultural appropriation or anything along those lines. It's literally, I wanted a simple way to do my hair. I wanted to not spend 20 minutes after every surf washing it out. And I love the look of dreadlocks and I wanted to go on that journey. So for me, that's really all that it comes down to. It is not about anything else. There's no political agenda here. It is really just having hair that I love. And then I'm kind of, how would I say? I feel like it's in alignment with my values as well, which may sound a little weird, but that's how it goes. So yes, some days I absolutely love my dreadlocks. Some days I hate them. So there's always this like love-hate relationship. Sometimes they look really cute. And then other days you're like, oh gosh, I'm just going to tie them back and hope for the best because they look really funky today. But that's the duality of life too. I mean, it's part of that process. And if you're not willing to go through that process, you are never going to have fully mature dreadlocks. And that's what I'm shooting for. Right now, I'm not there yet. Right now, I'm pretty much in, I would say, probably middle of my journey with my dreadlocks. And I know there's a lot more to go. And so I'm learning. Each day, I'm learning. I'm learning from my hair, as weird as that sounds. So I think when it comes to exploring boundaries, when it comes to exploring curiosities, when you actually start to go inward and you want to express that inward, kind of bring it outward, some radical things can happen. And that's what happened for me. It was like dreadlocks are kind of an expression of the inner transformation that I've been experiencing. So maybe it is about your hair. Maybe there's something you want to do to your hair. You needed somebody to say, go for it, go for it. You want to shave it off, you want to cut it short, you want to grow it long, you want to braid it, whatever you want to do. Go for it. Maybe you've always wanted to pierce your eyebrows or get a belly ring. Who knows? Maybe you've been thinking about getting a meaningful tattoo. What we do with our bodies can be artistic and expresses a lot of our inner journey. So don't be afraid. When you notice that something arises in you and you feel this desire or this urge to change something about your body, whatever it may be, as small or as simple as it is, why not explore that a little bit more? What is that telling you? Is there something deeper here? Sometimes there isn't. Sometimes it's just, I want a belly ring. Okay, go get a belly ring. Go get your nose pierced. Whatever you want to do. Go for it. Sometimes there's something more there to explore. And I think that's what I am discovering along this journey. And I'm sure over time, a little more patience, a little more grit, kind of getting through the weird days with the funky hair, I will uncover other lessons and spiritual lessons and learnings and all sorts of wonderful things for my hair. And I think to me, it's a way of also expressing my feminine power. because many women do not have dreadlocks. I wish more women did though, because it'd be like a very, very cool club to, like, come on guys, we're all getting together. I guess not guys, gals. We're getting together about our dreadlocks. What a really cool community that would be. I would love to hear other women's stories of why they chose dreadlocks, because it takes, how would I say, it takes a lot of guts to go out with your hair looking like this, especially when people don't understand and they make weird looks and comments about you. And then now people actually think my hair is cool. But for the first almost 18 months, they all thought it was weird. So it's a journey. Back to it's a journey. And so why do we let society tell us what we should or should not do with our hair, with our bodies, whatever, however we want to express ourselves? This is our lifestyle, and it's our choice to do with our hair, our bodies as we want. And it's really not about judgment. It's about self-expression. And hair is such a beautiful way to express ourselves as unique individuals. And that's something, it's really neat how hair kind of changes over time. Maybe look back at your hair timeline. Like, what are the different evolutions that you've gone through? You know, maybe you had your hair blonde at one point. Maybe you dyed it pink, straightened it, curly. It's really kind of fun to look at. So have you ever considered a radical hairstyle? Did you actually follow through with it? What happened as a result? Maybe you have a fun hair story to share. I would love to hear, by the way. DM me on Instagram to share your take on dreadlocks or hair or self-expression, all of these good things, and lifestyle by design. I'm also now on TikTok. Just look up @Mango Effect Podcast. Let's encourage and inspire each other. Let's be different. Let's stand out if we want to stand out. Let's enjoy our hair this week. So if you like what you hear, please subscribe to the Mango Effect Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode. I'd be absolutely thrilled if you could write a 5-star review for the show if you love it. We're a new show, so any reviews and subscribes we get will definitely help us as we grow. All right, until next week, think about dreadlocks, think about hair. Have a beautiful rest of your week. I will talk with you soon.